Okay, because there was a thing like you would watch a show with your grandparents.
My grandparents, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. The ones that thought I was gay. Unknowingly, I didn't know.
They loved you so much, though.
But they'd watch the Merv Griffin show. I'm sure everybody remembers Merv Griffin. This is ancient history.
See your arms crossed. I don't want you to feel too
vulnerable.
No, but
it's fine. So anyway, I was just like that would be the pinnacle as I get all, like I just imagined being on the Merv Griffin show.
Okay, so
to
that's
talk about my ball game.
And what was that?
And Betty White was probably going to sit next to me or something, So
who?
Dinah Shore, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if Burt Reynolds could come out.
Oh man,
Jesus Christ, that would have been the pinnacle.
That would be the pinnacle moment of you on the show
with Burt,
audience,
and Burt just
adoring.
being blown away. It's like, let's hang out, and not in a creepy way. Just a man and a boy.
Oh no, totally. He thought your 6-year-old ass was awesome.
You are listening to the new man beyond the Macho Jerk and the New Age Wimp. Your host is men's coach Tripp Lanier.
Are you with someone because you really want them or because you're more afraid to be alone? Are you settling for junk food relationships that never satisfy and leave you feeling empty? And how does loneliness drive us to choose lousy partners? Relationships are hard, and it seems like the only way to learn is to get into the mix. So today, Alyson and I find some friction when it comes to the topic of dating and playing the field. We also discuss how we've helped ourselves and others face their loneliness so that they don't have to settle for lousy partners.
Drinking the fizz, so if I have enough of it, I'll have a nice frat boy burp.
They do that on Bridgerton. Mm-hmm. You notice that the girls have big burps. Mm-hmm. They cut that out.
Specifically, that one family with the girl that acts like Lady Whistledown, they burp all the time.
Lady Whistledown. Have you? You haven't been watching it?
No, you don't watch it. I don't think it's appropriate for our daughter to watch. So, and the only time I'm ever in front of the TV is if I'm hanging out with you two. So, I don't really do TV on my own. I'm not really on my own anymore, ever. So if I have alone time, I'm not going to be in front of a TV for it.
No, not for Bridgerton.
Maybe if you were out of town, I'd be like, all right, girls' night.
For the sex,
me, myself, and I, girls' night.
I'm trying to think of how long it would get. Like, yeah, let's have sex. And it was like 15 minutes later, you're still taking off those outfits. And it would stink.
Oh, smells so bad.
It's like living in a fucking tent.
Smells so bad. Anyway.
Okay.
So how do you want to start? Because I don't need a character. I don't need a letter from a person.
I think we do have a letter.
That does AI stuff. No, I don't actually. It's coming from you.
This is coming from me?
Well, I thought we were going to start with referring to when we were hanging out together and you were basically telling me about all your ex-girlfriends.
Holy shit. Why?
Well,
how does that have to do with what we said we were going to talk about?
Because that was what I was like. This is all about the arc of relation, like being able to have a line of development in one's ability to be in relationship.
You're okay. I don't know what. Okay, I don't get the connection just yet. But
okay, so
go ahead, because I think this is all right. Go.
Do you want me to talk about the other person? I know that's what I'm expecting.
I don't.
Do you
understand.
want me to talk about the other person?
I think that was the core of it. But anyway, go for it. Let me see. You've got a beat on something, so go run with it.
Well, I'm remembering on our walk that you were like, "Oh no, this is a good hook." Like the piece around not wanting
talking
to
about
get hurt.
my shitty behavior.
That wasn't even a big one.
When you were in a fraternity How many keg stands would you do a night? I think you should watch Bridgerton more. There's a God.
All right. I lost my train.
What a lady.
We have to start over.
Lady Alyson. As long as it's coming out that end, it's a lot easier for me to handle.
Okay, so
I'm not going to shame you.
We were talking about.
But you're a terrible person for doing that. I'm not going to.
Well, I think actually probably what makes more sense is to just identify that you and I have had more than a few conversations in the last, let's just say 10 days, 2 weeks, where pretty much every conversation we've had was our experience of witnessing people doing kind of everything they can to avoid getting hurt in one way or another. By someone they want.
By others.
By others, period. But by life, but in my circumstance, it was like, who I'm referring to, the people that I'm referring to were by potential partners or current partners. And I think, from my perspective, you had a little bit of mix of both. It was either partners or just the world, like just life.
Yeah. And I mean, I think the thing I want to underline here is and this isn't just about romantic relationships. This is going to be business partnerships. This is going to be whatever.
Yeah, everything.
It's like, what can I do to be in the relationship and not be vulnerable, not be hurt, not be disappointed? And then when we start to do it that way, and I'm not saying that you don't protect yourself, but when we start to do relationship in that way where we're gaming and manipulating and performing and twisting and turning to do a thing, then it's really hard.
Yeah.
And relationships get really funky and weird and
for sure,
just bizarro world. But if a lot of us don't understand that that's what we're doing. Mm-hmm. So even just like a business relationship and you're doing a business deal, it's like, I don't want to get screwed on this. So I do a thing in the contract, we're negotiating a contract, and I do a thing on here, and then to get something or whatever to manipulate.
Yeah, it's all maneuvering.
And it's like, then all of a sudden the other guy's like, what'd you do that for, man?
Right.
Like, and that I've seen that happen so many times. Yeah. And the other guy felt like he needed to do that in order to assert something or whatever, but he wasn't. It's just so fucking bizarre that we do this shit. But I don't think a lot of us recognize that these preemptive or defensive maneuvers are trashing relationships.
Yes, absolutely. They're trashing.
Business, personal, romantic.
It's called a self-fulfilling prophecy in a lot of ways. Like,
so it's like, how do I get what I want, but not be hurt, not be vulnerable?
Well, the get what I want is actually secondary to how do I not be vulnerable. That's why it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's like, how do I love and be loved without ever getting hurt is like, or how do I, basically how do I love or be loved without ever getting hurt is the focus is on how do I not get hurt. It's not on how do I love and be loved. Mm. So that's why it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Have you ever done this?
I probably have. I mean, I don't know.
Yes, the answer is yes. By the way,
consciously, yes, I've done this. See, I'm not as quickly humble as you.
I was like, wow, she's really taking her time on this.
I was like going back into my past, but even, you're right. With you, even, I was like, no. You were like, let's do this. I'm coming out. I'm moving out to explore this relationship. And I was like, no, I got these trainings going on. I got this other thing going on. I'd like to just do that. That's much more what I know. Yeah, that's true. I've
had lots I've had lots of ways that I've tried to do relationship without getting hurt. So it's it's clunky. I can look at. I can look and see what damaged those relationships, and it was all that protective, defensive shit. That was the thing that broke trust. That was the thing that caused the damage. Not so much kind of just showing up and being there as the thing I was trying to protect myself from was probably not that big a deal, but the thing I was doing to protect myself from it usually was and vice versa. Like it goes both ways.
Yeah,
it's just
absolutely. We all don't want to get hurt, and we all, which majority folks that are being honest with their humanness, are gonna come to a place where they do actually want to be engaged in some sort of loving reciprocal experience. Right. That's just as our human beings, that's just something that we need as
safety. Yeah.
Bond. Yeah. We're social creatures. We need to experience bonds. Anyway, so without getting down that sort of jargony road, I want to just say that nobody gets taught. You have to basically crash through a bunch of relationships because you got to bump up against yourself. You got to notice where you're doing these, how you're failing yourself, like how you're protecting and guarding and all of those things instead of loving it's like you got to learn how to make love or your desire to love and be loved the priority over protecting and avoiding hurt.
And so you're saying that expect to go through a bunch of really clumsy.
Please expect to be clumsy. Please expect and I'm talking about like from the point of your first your first kiss, all the way to where you might consider the kind of relationship if you're someone that fantasizes of having a relationship that's sort of long-term or stable or whatever, steady, all the way through. So from the first kiss or wanting that first kiss all the way through to the end, that you need to expect that you're going to fuck up, that whoever you're with is going to fuck up, that you're going to hurt that person and that person's going to hurt you. And I think that as a rule, people don't think that they either think blanketly, like I can do something in a way where that's not going to happen.
Right.
Or blanketly, they think as a blanket sort of they think like it's definitely going to happen. Therefore I should not engage at all. And if there's something,
I think we should talk about some of the ways that, because I don't know if I was aware that I was doing this. So I imagine if I'm listening to this, I wouldn't be aware that I'm doing things to defend.
Yeah.
And so it was like, and recognizing that those defensive things can often be the things that are eroding the relationship or weakening the relationship.
Yeah. And
so I think it's good to just name that, and if you recognize that you're doing that, you can make the choice. I just want to help to have the awareness here, because if you don't know you're doing that, then it's like, well, this is what relationship is. Relationship just is this thing, instead of no, relationship is this way when I'm doing this thing in order to protect myself. Then I'm going to keep doing this over and over again, instead of learn from that and be able to grow from that.
I totally agree. And I think I love that. I think that's a really clean way to go about it. And also I think that the more real thing that happens is it's just fucking messy. And I think the reason that I wanted to talk about this in this way on the podcast was I just found myself really wanting, like, actually, I thought about our daughter and I was like, you know what? I want her to know, just like I would want anybody else to know, that going in, like screwing up, hurting people, getting hurt, like bumping up against different interpersonal dynamics, that is the line of development that you're supposed to be walking. That's the trail you're supposed to be on. And that it's a trail. It's not a destination. What'd you say? Of death. What'd you say?
Yeah.
Trail of death. Yeah. I mean, actually,
Tears.
sadly, it's like trail of tears, trail of
tears.
emotional wreckage. Like it is messy and it's ugly and it's embarrassing and it's whatever. It's actually, that's more real for people. That's what really happens. And it starts in middle school, if not sooner for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so the reason that I you and I were talking, you can cut this out if you need to, but like you and I were talking and I remember saying to you, like, I don't remember my mom ever saying this to me, but I like maybe she did, but I always knew when I was dating different people that they were not the end result. Like I wasn't dating them to like figure out how to be with them. Like this was the person. I knew they weren't my person. I just knew it. And it was like, all right, well, I'll try this out. Like I'll try.
How did you know that? Because that's really different. Because and that I think that could also be construed as a defense. Like if I've always got one foot out the door and I'm here to learn, and I'm not accusing you of that, but that can be one of the things that we do. And I certainly was guilty of that. I would choose people to date that I knew I just knew it wasn't a thing. So I wasn't going to get vulnerable. Like it was a way to be protected there.
So I want to be clear. Like I still got vulnerable. I still was in the relationship, but there was just a deeper knowing. There was just something. And I think maybe it's different for me being a female. Like I've had men propose to me. I've had men say they want to have my baby. Like there's just things where in my experience where when they would say that, I would actually like start laughing. I'm not outwardly to them,
and this is why guys have a hard time with women when they get vulnerable.
I wasn't laughing outwardly at them. I want to be really clear. Like I'm revealing to you the inside. But my point is that internally, when something like that came to like where that meeting point, that contact point happened to me, my person, there was a very strong, clear, like, nope, that's definitely not what's here. And
so how did you know that? Because I grew up very differently, and there was a sense of like, geez, maybe this person is somebody I'm going to be with for a while. And maybe there was this just sense of like, if you're dating for a while, then maybe this is somebody I'm going to marry and this is where it's going. So I'm curious how you developed that knowing.
I'm not exactly sure that this is why it's hard for me to, I'm not exactly sure how I developed that knowing. That's why I told you the other day, I was like, maybe my mom said something to me. Maybe like she gave me a ton of kind of a perspective about this.
All men are garbage.
No, absolutely not. There was never a perspective like that. It was to be really clear, like if she gave me some sort of message, it was like, try shit out. Because you're not going to meet the one.
Which is very different from culturally, like a lot of women, which is like get married, like get find the guy and settle down and start the family.
You know, what feels more true, like as I really kind of examine, like she did carry the flag for that with regards to my life experiences. Like, don't live in this same small town the rest of your life. Get out, go see the world. You know, don't get like, yes, you have a job, and yes, you're like creating a life and learning how to play house in this point on the land, you know, in this territory. And there's so many other territories that you haven't yet explored. Go explore them. So she actually did encourage me to literally go see the world and go live in different places and try different things in that way. So I imagine that maybe that just bled into relationships for me, because I don't know how I knew that, but I did know that. That was really clear. And I still was in longer term relationships. I was still really trying it on. Like, okay, well, what's it like to play house with this person? What's it like to really be in a relationship with this person? And it wasn't like I was like, wow, I'm really not happy here, so this isn't the man for me. It wasn't like that.
I think there's something here, which is starting from a place of let's see how this goes and if this builds, which is different than where a lot of folks start, there's kind of a euphoria for some folks when they meet someone,
Yeah.
and they get really excited, and then it's a chipping away at that.
Yeah.
And it's a chipping away of that, whatever image we created of that person early on. And then we get to reality, which is like, oh, this is who you've been the whole time.
Right.
But I couldn't see it because I
Right.
got caught up in all the
up in
hormones and chemicals and
picture of what it is I'm going for.
And what I wanted it to
Yeah.
be. And so it sounds like you didn't get into that early on, and then it was a matter of, well, let's start with more reality, and then see where it goes.
Yeah.
But we're going to work from reality.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Yeah, for sure. And I don't even think that I had that in my brain at the time,
Yeah.
like reality, talk. But it was more like, there's so much here that's brand new.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. Even like getting into relationships sexually, it was like, I don't know what my body likes. I don't know what my body likes with you versus, it's like, I don't know. So, and then also like, how do we hang out more than just a date or more than just a whatever? It's like, all that is so new.
So you had more of a learning approach, more of a let's see, I'm here to learn.
Let's explore.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a definite let's explore.
That's very different from culturally, like we find the person and this is it.
Well,
and
I do agree. You said something earlier. You were like, because you actually, you didn't say it here.
I have feelings, and I'm not like you.
No,
I actually have feelings.
You said that you've always been running from your thing was like the pressure. Like when we were talking about your past relationships, you talked about like you were always nervous about like somehow you were going to say something or do something that would have you give a message that would like lock you in to something.
Right.
And like that you'd give the wrong message.
Right.
Because you really weren't in, but you were interested and you wanted to play, but you weren't in.
Yeah. I mean, there were several instances where I would be with a person and that person was like, I could have been like, do you want to get married? And they'd be like, yes, let's go right now. And I was just not in that place. I was young. We were young. We're kids.
But it would stress you out. You told me it was like stressful.
It was like, oh my God, it's like having a loaded gun. Like they're so vulnerable and they're so ready to ready and willing to go and make this big decision, which was really immature.
Yes.
And I was very clear, like, that's not where we are.
Yeah.
Maybe down the road it could be that way, but it just was like it added so much pressure of don't send the wrong signal that we're going to be committed and with each other the rest of our lives. It just wasn't in that place, which had me come off as being aloof or doing things to keep the person at arm's length or something. Yeah. And I imagine I could find scenarios where I was maybe more of a pursuer in that regard too, but yeah. So it was very different for me. It was always kind of managing those gigantic expectations, which is, hey, we're together. Let's get married. Like, let's lock this thing down. This feels amazing and this is exciting. Let's lock it down. And just really managing that and be like, I don't know. Hell no. I don't want to do that.
And that's where, that the pressure, sort of the environmental, social, cultural, whatever you want to say, like you mentioned that earlier about like, if we date for a certain amount of time, then it's like, oh, suddenly we've been together for 2 years. When's he going to propose?
Well, I remember my Nana thought I was gay because I didn't marry my high school girlfriend. She revealed this to me later. I dated my high school girlfriend for a couple of years, and then we broke up, and she's like, I thought you were a little light in your loafers because you didn't marry her. I was like, what? She got married at 18, left Australia, and came to the States with a Navy submariner. Yeah. So it was like, that's what you did at 18. You dropped everything and went and got married. And it was like, she's like, you're strange. Oh, he's gay. That's the explanation.
That must be the explanation. And I'm sure so many other people have other versions of that with their elders too. And I do.
By the way, the term "light in your loafers" did not come from me. That was her. All right, don't send me emails.
Well, the fact that loafers even is a term still.
That's not me.
That's funny.
She's long gone. So
that was.
Well, I think that it is kind of learning how to manage these vulnerabilities. It's a huge weight in the relationship. And somehow we can feel like we're responsible. That was always difficult for me, having more casual excursions with people, because it was like, gosh, does this mean that I'm we're going to have something more than something casual, because there wasn't at that time to be completely transparent about something was really difficult.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think people still have difficulty with being completely transparent. At least the people that I've talked to. My hope is that, you know, you talked about your grandmother and how her perspective was. My hope is that even you and I and this conversation for some people is dated. I hope so. Like, I want it to be dated, because my hope when I remember reading something, gosh, this was back in probably 2003 or 5 or something. And there was like this whole thing around like, oh, young people are these younger generations, they're waiting to get married. They're having more non-monogamy. They're having more like casual kind of sex and all that. And I remember thinking like, that's fucking great. Like, I hope that's well,
I want to push back on that.
Hang on, just give me a minute. You're already in 6th gear. So what I would want for anyone who's entering any kind of sexual / relationship / dating scene is that they engage and enter from a place of curiosity, enthusiastic, yes, of what they want to explore. Like that they just start there. And anything is a potentially on the table for them to explore in the name of experimentation and figuring out what feels right or good or fun, including how they want to relate back and forth to a person. Okay. That opens the doors on how they might want to be authentic, truthful, transparent, playful, whatever. Okay. So that's one thing. The thing that I think is missing from this, let's just say this generation that is only doing that, non-monogamy and jumping from here, this person to that person, or having multiple partners, is the deepening. Being able to stay with one person or more, but really stay with them in relationship and learn how to be in relationship with them, instead of just seek out little peak experiences that are hits for our brain or our bodies.
All right. So it's important that we get on the same page here, because when you talk about playing the field and trying things out, I think you're assuming that we're coming from this grounded, centered place of like, I already know what it's like to be alone and I'm okay to be alone. And I want to fly the flag that that's not true for a lot of folks. That wasn't true for me.
Yeah. I remember when we talked about it, you were like, you're an anomaly.
I had to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
And if we don't learn how to do that, it's like, think of it like it's like, yeah, you can go experiment with alcohol. And then, but it's like, if you're always or social media or achievements or anything that gives us that high, if we never learn how to have a baseline without that high, then it feels wrong if we're not at that high. We're always coming like, wait a second, I don't feel high anymore. I've got to get back there. I'm not okay to be without this thing. I don't know who I am without this thing. And so creating that sense of that grounded, stable sense of self, then I can experience like, hey, what's it like when I introduce this into my life? So if it's a beer or it's a woman or it's social media or whatever, and I'm impacted by that, I can sense like, whoa, this really rocks the boat, or, oh, this is exciting, but I get to still be with me. I'm not trying to outrun me anymore. Yeah. I know what that's like. Because without that sense or that baseline of being with ourselves and being okay with that baseline of loneliness, it's going to feel wrong. I'm just going to keep going.
State chase.
Yeah. You're going back up. Like, I got to get back to that excitement. And then when I'm alone again, whoa, something's not
right. Yeah.
I got, and so, I'm drawing here with my finger, this kind of wave, this crest and this trough. And I go from that high in the wave, and then there's a trough. And if I'm in that trough, fuck yeah, I want to get back up to that, the top of that. But what I'm offering here is a baseline, somewhere in the middle where, yeah, it's not as exciting and as ecstatic, but it's not in the trough as well. There's just a sense of like, I'm okay here.
And that's what you helped me kind of get to and unpack with mine. Like, how did you know to do do that, which was like you essentially named it as being able to be alone with yourself, being able to enjoy being alone with yourself. And so you're saying that's always first, because that is the epicenter. That's the baseline of all things from there. Because that's who you're going to end up with when you die anyway.
It also allows me to say no to shit. Because I'm not hooked in. I'm not like stuck here or dependent. Like I'm not okay without this. It allows me like, I'm okay. It's maybe not my preference, but I know I'm okay. And so I can say, hey, you know what? This isn't working for me. I'm out.
Well, and I think what's valuable here is like, you know, we talked about this concentric circle too, of like, learn how to do that with yourself and you. And then that first entry point of like, what is it like with someone else in the room? What's it like with someone you really like or really want to be with, or you've tried some shit out with and you're really enjoying what you've tried with this person. And so there's all these extra chemicals and all the extra fun and exploratory high.
It's a high.
There's all this other stuff that's now influencing there's just a lot of influence there. So how do you then keep coming back to home base and allow home base to also be in the room?
Right.
Or what does it look like? Like, I think in another podcast I talked about the sort of, there's me, there's you, and then there's we in any given relationship. And those are all different spaces. And so the me, we're talking about how important each respective me is for the we space. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I'm not a strong individual, I'm not bringing strength to the relationship. And I think that's, a lot of us are looking for strength in the relationship. I feel weak outside of the relationship. I need to get into the relationship in order to feel strong again. No, we start from a place of feeling strong. We do the practices. We have a strong life. We have friendships. We have activities. We have shit that we like to do. And then there's there's a place for somebody to be there.
Yeah.
And we would like to have that.
I would argue that for some people, the learning how to be strong in relationship, yes, we have to learn how to be by ourselves, but it's not until we are putting ourselves in situations, either in work or learning or with another person or whatever, where we actually bump up against ourselves.
Correct.
And we learn more there. But that's that ability to come back to home base and like, what's happening here?
Right.
What am I noticing about myself? What am I discovering? Whoa, I feel strongly here. I'm not just a hormonal bitch. I actually have I have a value here, or I have a belief here that is driving how I'm being with this person. Yeah. What is that? So I do think that's really valuable. And I love what you're saying about drugs or and alcohol here, because in the state chasing, that's really...
Yeah, because that's where the experiments are fruitful, right? If I'm coming from a strong place and I introduce this thing, I can really sense how it's impacting me versus I have to always be getting back to that high.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about in terms of like experiment, go play around, like try it on, try on this shoe, try on that shirt, like play house for a bit, notice what it's like, you know. You don't have to get married yet, lock into anything, have kids, but like try that stuff on. And so
that's different than I'm not okay unless I'm always trying stuff on.
Yeah.
Right. There's like, I can try stuff on.
That's a good distinction.
Versus, I'm okay to leave it. Yeah. I don't have a compulsion to go and do that.
Yeah. I appreciate that distinction. And so how did you do that for you? Like, how did you learn?
I think I was shitty at it is my point.
But what was maybe the tipping point? Did it take another person?
Well, I think what occurred to me was that, there was a period in my 20s. I don't think I'd ever really been alone. I'd always had roommates, and then I moved right in with a girlfriend.
Yeah, I think that's really big.
And then that whole thing crashed down. I had a big experience there, and then I just was like, I'm going to be alone. I actually want to learn how to be alone. I'm so tired of like craving, and it's different. Like I had people that I worked with, I had an office that I shared with people and that kind of stuff. And I still had connections with people, but that like craving, like I'll just be with anybody. That feeling I was sick of. And really it was just more of like learning how to be with myself and learning that it was okay to be with myself. That sitting home on a Friday night and reading a freaking philosophy
super
book
enjoyable.
was actually fine.
Yeah.
And it was difficult at times. And there was always a sense there. It's not like my desire to connect with someone went away, but it was that I could be that. I didn't have to betray myself or bullshit myself in order to just have somebody there.
Yeah.
And that's very different. And that allows us to then go into these relationships and be able to be transparent because I'm already okay being alone.
Yeah.
It may not be my preference, but I'm already okay being alone. And this translates to business stuff. Like, it's like, I'm already okay without your investment, or I'm already okay without this and that. So I don't need to bend over and play these mind games with myself in order to justify X, Y, Z. I'm okay being right here. I might I would love to have a partnership here, or prefer to have your investment, or prefer to have your help, but I'm already okay as I am.
Right.
I don't have to believe this part of my brain, which is like, if you don't get this, you're going to die.
Yeah. I actually, you're helping me make a connection that you were like, how did I know that? I think that's how I think it is. My mom was it was my mom. So she was always very consistent about talking to me about enjoying like myself, like just being alone and enjoying alone time, and really like how fun it is to be alone. Also how much fun you can have just with yourself. Like, she wasn't even talking about sexual play or anything. She was just talking about like literally just like be with yourself. Notice how awesome it is. Just like, you're an awesome person, like hang out with yourself. And that, I think, really is it. And I love what you're saying about that. That's making a big connection for me. Like, oh, that must have been it. And in all this, my arc of relationships, because the one time, before I met you, there was like one person that I was like, I think I should maybe be with this person. And it really came from a lot of social pressure of the people in my environment. Of course, like biological clock, all the things were happening all at once, but really it was largely outside in, people being like, you two are made for each other. You two are this and that. You two, when are you guys going to get married? There was just a lot of that. And I remember thinking like, okay, maybe so. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
And, but that's really beautiful how counterintuitive it is for, somebody that it's like, we're talking about people that avoid getting hurt. Like, they want to avoid getting hurt so that they can like love and be loved without any of the pain.
Right.
And then you're also saying like, in order to love and be loved, really love and be loved, you got to be okay without relationship. And then there's people that like want to posture that.
Yeah. It's a sense of wholeness. Think about it like this. Like, let's just put it in the frame of foods, right? I'm probably not going to have my worst food choices in the morning after I've had my healthy breakfast. Right. It's going to come if I've been on the road, or I'm in a plane. I've been in the airplane for 8 hours and I'm just like, fuck it.
You're tired. I'm going to day.
Yeah. I'm hungry. I'm starving. I'm depleted.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll put that shit in my body.
What's in front, what's easy.
Yeah. And I get a false sense of satiation. Like, okay, I'm okay now. And I was like, and then I'm like, that was a poor choice. I made that choice. But that's how relationships are for a lot of people too.
Yeah.
So if we're doing the work to strengthen ourselves, we're way less likely to be in this reactive place of, Jesus, I gotta do something. I gotta swipe on this and make something happen. I'm okay to be here. And then it's just more of a choice. It's like, if I want to have something, I want to have a snack, or I want to have some fun, I'm doing it from a place of choice and not this reactive place.
Yeah.
And trying to justify it after the fact. Like, wow. This is how we end up with like, how did this asshole or this terrible person end up in my life? And it's that.
When you do learn to be alone and you learn to really enjoy being alone, you enjoy yourself.
Right. You
feel your wholeness. You're starting to feel the joy, kind of like the generative joy.
And you're not afraid to be alone.
And you're not afraid. Yeah. Let's just say you get past all that, right? Like you get there. Now take that with the desire, because we all still have desire to have love in one way or another, experiences with somebody else or somebody's. So take that piece, and then how do you do the thing where there's still a trail to be walked.
Right.
It's not like I'm going to go be alone and I'm going to figure all that out and then I'm going to find the one.
All right, I'll put it through my experience because that's all I have. When I was growing up, losing my mom at an early age, there was just a gigantic fucking hole in me. Okay. I didn't know it at the time, but even just like, I couldn't just date girls in high school. Like I had to have a girlfriend, and even her, I would have just devoured, like fill this hole. All right. And then that didn't work out because it was, I got to move on and go on and that. But I remember being young, late teens, early 20s, and just being like, screw love. And like, it's just vulnerable and you're just going to it's just going to rip your heart out and all this kind of stuff.
So many people go
I didn't know how to do it. Got hurt. Fuck being hurt. I'm not going to be hurt again. So I'm going to wall myself off. And then I'm just going to kind of have this train of girls that I don't really care about, or if I do care about them, I'm scared to death of them, and I'm going to keep them out at arm's length or whatever. And it was just so awkward.
And so true, so real.
But underneath all of that was this deep, deep pain and yearning, and like, I am alone and I really need to be with someone. I really need to be loved. And not realizing that was different than I just want a romantic partner, and wouldn't it be cool to live my life with somebody and kind of build that. This was a shitload of like,
it's a great distinction.
Not okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not okay being alone. And if I am alone, then I actually start to feel all this shit that's here, and it's not okay. So having somebody there kept me from having to feel that, and I just stay busy and would just kind of be in that denial place. And so when I was finally vulnerable with somebody, and that ended, it triggered all of that stuff, went ape shit. And then I realized underneath all of that was just like, I was really afraid to be alone. In addition to finally feeling all this hurt and all the other stuff, there was just like, I'm really alone. And that was painful. Like just like that fear of being alone just stuck at me. And I was like, it was okay. And then it was just like, I want to be okay being alone. Like that was something that felt like I could do. And it was of course I could have a preference to be with others or to be with somebody, but I wanted that place where I didn't feel like I was clawing and just anybody. Let's just kind of just
right,
whatever.
But
how
did you not swing the other direction into just straight armoring of like, I'm fine, like being an island?
Well, I think at that point I was feeling all the things that I needed to feel. I wasn't running away from them anymore. Like that whole situation had come up, and I had to experience all that shit. So I wasn't running away from myself anymore. And I think that was a big part of it. And once I didn't feel like I needed to run away from myself, then I didn't need to distract myself with others in order to do that thing. And so it became enjoyable to be alone. It was a very creative period for me. And it was just like, it was cool. And then I still had friends that still did things out in the world, but that clawing need to have somebody there relaxed a lot. Now, that still was a desire to be with somebody, but it felt much different than this kind of gaping hole. And so I can only speak to that. It doesn't sound like you had that, or you whatever was there, like that gaping hole thing wasn't there. But I think for a lot of us it is. And it doesn't mean you've had to go through some major tragedy or anything. But if mom or dad or whatever need wasn't met early on,
for sure,
then there is like, I'm still trying to get that need met. And I'm going to get it met this way. And I don't really care who this person is. Just fill this up. And as soon as you don't work anymore, I'll just get another one in there. So that was more true for me. So having a more of a grounded sense of, okay, this is what it's like to start from a much higher baseline. This is where it feels okay to be alone. Then it was just like, hey, if things aren't working with this person, I'm cool to let it go. I'd actually probably prefer to be alone. It's actually, there's less drama. There's less bullshit.
But that's definitely, I can relate to that.
Right. And that's where it sounds like I can relate to your story more and your experiences, which is like when things are starting from a much more solid, healthier baseline. But that if we don't know that, and being alone is really scary and painful, then we're constantly seeking to fill that up, whether it's with the devices of social media and little hits of likes and stuff there, where it's like the junk food version of connection. It just wears us down.
There was a person that I dated that was much, much older than me. I was, as other people would say, I was working out daddy issues, but I remember he I was coming into like my next chapter. I was like just getting ready to move across the country, and like moving across the country meant that we wouldn't be together, but I got really clear that that was where I was headed, and that kind of thing. And he definitely felt it. And he was very unattached person from the very beginning, which was why it was so fun to explore. But as that move started to, like, the things started to go into place for that move to happen, he started to shift to a place of like, he would start to kind of throw out things that I thought were ironic. Like, wow, this is just what you think women like to hear. Like, he would be like, let's make a baby. Let's buy a house out there. Let's do this. Or,
right.
He'd like do things that and I remember thinking like, this is just what you think women want to hear. but I also remember like, oh, no. This is, you're grasping
this
now.
Flailing.
This
grasping.
is not.
Right. What do I have to do? And this is the compromise shit. Was like, what do I do so I don't get hurt? What do I do so you don't leave me? I'll tell you whatever you want.
Yeah.
And then you know what happens a year and a half later?
Right.
He sobers up and he's like, what the fuck did I get myself into?
Yeah.
I did all of that so you wouldn't leave and I wouldn't have to feel that pain.
Yeah. I think that's really, so this is what's interesting is like, this is why I wanted to have this conversation. I really want, if this could be a nugget of gold for anybody that listens or anybody that wants to share this with somebody who needs to hear it, it's like, please crash around. Please know.
Well, hold on. I think first and foremost, I just want to say this, that the image I get is of a dartboard. And at the center is relationship with self. Can I be with me, or do I have to avoid me or run away from me? And I think if that's the case, it would be worth investigating
for sure.
What's going on with me that I can't be with.
For sure.
And that's different than, God, I'd love to be with somebody. I'd love to share my life with somebody. But it's far different than like, I'm not okay. My life is
totally
falling, right? Okay, there's a thing in there like, I can't actually be this, and I'm in deep pain just being with me. Getting to where it's more neutral to be with myself, I prefer to be with somebody, but there's more neutrality there, means that we won't be as intoxicated or pulled off of our center when we are with somebody else.
Well, I think and I actually think that there's sort of like a middle step there that like, if we invited people into this little gift here of like how this could better their lives, start with yourself in the center of that bullseye. And there's a learning how to be with yourself.
Yes.
Learning how to actually enjoy yourself. Really play and have fun with yourself, like just whatever that means,
right.
Like discovering how you roll, any of that. But then in between there, where a lot of people I think get lost is like, how do you do that with somebody else in the room?
Right.
How do you do that when engaged in relationship with somebody else?
And that's, if you have a sense of who you are, like without all the other influences, and you know what that stability feels like. That it's like, okay, if it's a Friday night and I'm not out lighting up the town, then I'm okay to be here. Like, I know what this feels like. I know that I can wake up and have my day and whatever. And then when somebody else comes into my life, and then to feel the impact of that, to notice the types of things that I'm telling myself. Am I starting to bullshit myself? Are the healthy things that I do starting to go to the wayside, where I'm losing myself now because somebody's coming in? If you can have awareness around it, be like, okay, this isn't healthy.
Well, it might be not healthy. It might be healthy, but that is part of what you have to like explore, right? Like, it's like, am I abandoning myself just so I can stay connected to this person and whatever their preference is, or whatever they, this idea of how we should be together is. That's the part that. Yeah.
Is this person in my life strengthening me, or am I actually getting weaker? Or are my other relationships going to shit? Is my health going to shit?
Yeah.
And you can recognize like, this is interesting.
Right.
And there's that exciting period that can happen in there. But ultimately we want to, I fly the flag for, be with people that bring out the best in you and strengthen you. Not, cool, we're together, so erase all this other shit in your life so you can be with me.
Shut yourself down.
Right.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we will do that just to get that person. We don't realize that we're doing that. But if you have this solid, stable sense of self, and then somebody comes in and it really disrupts things. That's really great information. Look at what, and it's not about the person so much as like, look at what I do when I start to be in a relationship. And then that can be a place to get some help or get some awareness around it, or just recognize, oh, when I'm with these types of people, I tend to lose myself or whatever. It's like, wow, when I'm with this person, I feel more of myself. I feel more strong. I feel more grounded. That'd be even better.
Yeah. I also think
then you are playing the field. Then you're experimenting and you're like, how does it feel when I eat this food? Oh gosh, I crash afterwards. I eat this food. I feel good. I feel energized. I feel strong.
Yeah. And I also love that idea of like what you're talking about, the playing the field, that, you know, that could be a decade or 15 years of that. I mean, who knows how long that could last for people? Like,
some do it even while they're married, you know?
Some people do.
I've talked to guys that do it.
Well, what I was going to say is like I would love it if, as a rule, you know, like how in Europe, just as somehow everybody's agreed to have siesta. Oh. It's like, as a general rule, you go through a period maybe in your mid to late 20s where you have to be alone with yourself all over again. Like, if that no partner.
I actually think I know I'm biased just based on my own experience, but I would want that for my daughter.
Absolutely.
I would want her to not be afraid of being alone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, start there, but then come back to that too, as you in your late 20s, so that you can be like, who am I really? Who am I now? How does this map up against where I've been and what I've done? And so who am I here? Yeah. I do think that's super valuable.
You want to go to a movie by yourself? Go to a movie by yourself. You want to go a weekend away and do a thing and try a thing? You want to go to a concert? Like, that's for a lot of people. Please. It's like, I don't do a thing unless I'm with somebody else.
Yeah.
And it's like, go do the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course it'd be better if you had a friend or a lover, but still go live your damn life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get out of the house.
Yeah. But I'm curious what you think of.
God.
I
don't like the look on your face.
Well, we have some opinions and some perspectives on people that are on Instagram, like what do they call it? Photoshopping your life. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just curious what you think about that, what's happening there for many people that are kind of photoshopping their life and how they want to be seen versus what we're talking about with like, be real, be alone, be with yourself, learn how to be real with.
I want to be quick not to pathologize the whole thing.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
But if I feel like if someone feels like they can't be anybody other than that persona, like that's the only version of them that is acceptable,
right?
Or
like, I can't let my boyfriend see me without my makeup on,
attractive or desirable or worthy, that would be a real problem, right? Because essentially that's the thing we're doing in order to be accepted and be loved. And then it puts this, first off, it's starting from this place of I'm not acceptable or lovable as I am. I have to do this other thing. I have to be this other person.
Wax my legs.
To be accepted, to be desired, which we're all doing. I mean, super high performer people I know that are doing this, they're only acceptable if they're making more money than they did last year or doing that. Like, there's just other versions of it.
30 years younger.
The Instagram stuff, the vanity version of this, it's across the board. It's the mom has the perfect children and wants everybody to know. Like, it just we do this thing. And so there's what we present to the world in order to get love and to not be rejected, right? Because the fear is, if you really saw me as I am, if you really saw me, you really got to know who I am, you probably wouldn't like me. That's the huge, big, deep fear. You wouldn't accept me without this shit. So that still comes
back to ground zero be with yourself, learn how to love and enjoy yourself.
And most of us are doubling down on the achievements and that persona, that self-image thing, and thinking, if I get it to this place, it'll be enough, and then I can relax, and then I'll have the love and the acceptance that I'm really looking for, which No, then you just start carving up your face, or you just start doing other, whatever. It doesn't end. It's a terrible thing. The flip side is to turn inward and go learn how to be with the thing that you can't be with and relax it. And like, yeah, this is me too. And then what happens when you build genuine relationships from that is there's an ease there instead of, geez, I better keep doing this shit or my friends are going to leave or my business partners are going to leave or my opportunity. It's everything's about to go away if you don't do this stuff.
Yeah. And this is also why I want everybody to learn this, is because we need the experience of that with ourselves. And then that next step is, how do we learn how to be that in the presence of another person? Right. So if we're in the presence of another person that is like, I'm not attracted to you if you don't look a certain way, or if you aren't young, or if you have wrinkles or whatever it is, I'm not attracted to you if you don't dress up or whatever it is.
Or you're rich.
Or if you're not rich, or, exactly. Like, I'm not attracted to you if you don't drive this car or whatever. And then all that does is it has us pull back even more and start to drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
So that's why I want everybody to learn, is like, so that please everybody can find somebody that can be like, oh, yes to all of you, as you are.
But that's what feels like death. If I were going to be transparent about who I am and what's really going on with me, you wouldn't find me attractive. So I have to play this game in order to be liked. And I think it's like, if I'm not okay with me, or I'm only okay if you're validating me and you're here with me, that's the trap.
Yeah.
But if I can come back to just like, I'm okay to be with me, and then you can come along and this could be great. And if you're not, okay. But if we're not starting from that place, that center of the bullseye of being accepting and loving as we are, and it's an ongoing process, it's not fun. It's not, doing shadow and all that kind of stuff.
But it is the epicenter of it.
But right, it's just a lot easier. Then I'm not hooking into you, trying to get you to accept me and validate me all the time. And like, I'm still here. I'm still great. Right. Like that whole thing. Please don't leave. Let's have a baby. Let's buy a house.
Don't go out with your friends. Go out with me.
Right. But it's just all like, I'm just going to keep doing what I have to do to keep you here. And instead of, we have a genuine loving relationship and we can appreciate one another.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot more ease there instead of every day is another, let's get after it kind of a thing. Yeah.
I love that.
You got to realize you're an alien here with your starting from. I think you need to recognize that, because when you talk to people and you assume they're starting from that's a dangerous assumption. You need to be damaged like me.
well, this is actually, I appreciate, this could be the beginning of another conversation, but I do want to say, like, I remember going to what was junior high school. I remember entering the 7th grade, and I remember that year, I remember feeling like, what the fuck world did I just step into? I remember feeling like, I don't understand any of this. I don't understand the games. I don't understand the posturing. I don't understand the lying. I don't understand any of this. Nobody gave me the handbook. I remember crying to my mom, being like, there's got to be a book that I didn't get. Like, nobody gave me the handbook.
Everybody's still doing the middle school thing, by the way.
Yeah, well, that's, but
they are.
My question is, so actually our very own daughter essentially said this much to me at the beginning of last year, or towards the end of last year. She was like, why is everybody acting like, what is going on with everyone?
It's because people are doing the thing to do that they think they have to do in order to be accepted and not be hurt.
I just wonder if there's something there that's like, something happens there that causes even that to happen. Instead of just everybody's doing this thing. It's like, well, maybe everybody started with this, like, what is this weird alien world? And then they were like, oh, because of my developmental task of being liked and wanted and included, I have to just drink the Kool-Aid. Like, I don't know.
I think it'd be great. I'm sure somebody studied this and like what percentage of people fall into that.
Yeah.
And then you got to think our culture is distorted because of who's most visible. So then it's going to be the most people that feel like they need to be seen and interesting and extraordinary that we're going to see more often. But and chances are maybe they are the ones that are dealing with this the most.
Yeah.
The people that are well-adjusted
they're not worried about it.
it's not on their radar that they have to, every day they've got to go get more attention and validation.
True. Yeah.
So it's very distorted when we say everybody
That's true.
is doing this.
Yeah.
There's a certain part of the population that's still kind of in that middle school phase of, I've got to be this extraordinary person all the time.
Right. Right.
And I don't know anything about that.
Oh, will you please tell the story that you told me on the walk when you were little and you saw the Merv Griffin show and you went, please, with the ball. It's so awesome.
You think?
Oh, I love it.
Oh, it burns.
Is that too vulnerable?
Oh.
It's so sweet. I love it so much.
Well, I spent a lot of time alone as a little kid. I was left on my own.
I love it.
Why? It seems sad.
I don't think it's sad.
You don't?
No.
It occurs to me as sad.
I think it's a beautiful. I think it's anecdotal to what we're talking about, not in a but in
burns.
Help people have compassion, help people understand how these things can develop, and how tender and sweet it can just stem from a really innocent place.
Yeah. So when I was 6, the world. I don't know if you knew this, but the world revolved around me.
No other 6-year-old felt that way ever.
And I had invented this amazing game where you throw the ball up on the roof.
You invented it.
I invented it. I was the first child to come up with this game where you throw the ball up on the roof and you can't see where it's going to be. And then when it rolls off the roof, you got to be there to get it.
You got to know, you got to like intuit where it's going to come off, or you just got to be ready.
Amazing skills to do this.
To be able to catch wherever it comes down.
Only I could do
that's a pretty solid invention. That's like physics and everything.
Yeah, and I'm sure no other child on the planet has ever... could even comprehend.
Including me.
Yeah. That you did that.
Shit. But I never invented it. This is the thing.
Oh, you did? You were taught it. It must have.
I don't know. I think I was a bystander. It was just happening. So.
Shit. Well, just so you know, I invented it.
I love it. You're on it.
It was my gift to the universe.
So as a 6-year-old, you had in your world, you invented it.
Oh, this burns.
No. I'm not trying to make fun of you. This is really sweet. I think this is really sweet.
So I invented that, and then fame and fortune followed.
Okay. So, but how because there was a thing like you would watch a show with your grandparents.
My grandparents, I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. The ones that thought I was gay. Unknowingly, I didn't know.
They loved you so much, though.
But they'd watch the Merv Griffin show. I'm sure everybody remembers Merv Griffin. This is ancient history.
See your arms crossed. I don't want you to feel too
vulnerable. No, it's fine. So anyway, I was just like that would be the pinnacle as I get all, like I just imagined being on the Merv Griffin show.
Okay, so
to
that's
talk about my ball game.
Okay, so from a very early age, that
was a solution to get that need met. Like, I'm going to finally get attention. I'm going to finally get recognition, and I'm going to finally feel significant and special.
And so even at 6, was that happening? Where you had mentioned that you were like, you'd spend time not just like the recognition, but you spent time trying to, like, how would you talk about your invention?
So if
Is
Merv
that right?
sat me down, like how would I explain the game to Merv? And,
I love this so much.
I don't remember like really working on it. I just remember being like, this would be rad.
Yeah.
And I get to explain the game to Merv.
Yeah.
In America,
And what was that
And Betty White was probably going to sit next to me or something, so.
Who?
Dinah Shore, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if Burt Reynolds could come out.
Oh, man.
Jesus Christ. That would have been the pinnacle.
That would be the pinnacle moment of like you on the show, people,
Burt.
audience,
and
like
Burt just
adoring.
being blown away. It's like, let's hang out, and not in a creepy way. just a man and a boy.
Oh, no, totally. He thought your 6-year-old ass was awesome.
All right.
Anyway,
little less shame in there now.
So beautiful. No, it's just so pretty, pretty in the good way, like beautiful in the way of like innocent, sweet, adorable, gives me so much endearment and compassion towards how these things start, because to this day, you're somebody that's really amazing at explaining and teaching things and helping people figure things out. Like how does this happen? And also you've done the work of being with yourself, learning how to be with those places that you're scared of. And so you're someone who now is like, I see wholeness now personally. Like I see that young boy that wanted that. And I also see the work that you went through to tend to those places that had deep needs.
Right.
And also see how you used, how you creatively adjusted to get your needs met, but and how that's become some of your real strengths and parts of your resilience. And you've worked with yourself so they're not cutting you off despite your, what is it called? Cut your nose off despite your face, whatever. And so anyway, I like it. I'm grateful that you shared it.
I appreciate you're more accepting of me in these places than I am sometimes. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, I love you. So.
If these interviews are helping you, please leave a positive review on whatever podcast app you use so that others can discover the show more easily.